Hey guys, Gamblers and Givers is back again after giving away $1,200 last week. Great charity. We just giving away money.
We're actually givers this week.
Yes.
The week before we were just gamblers.
Right.
So,
That's right. That's right. So, what other podcast gives away that kind of money per week?
I haven't seen. Obviously, there's this Mr. Beast and these guys who do a lot of stuff. But when it comes to sports betting and gamblers, right, and this idea of collecting our collective will, if you will, and putting sometimes our smarts, sometimes our luck to help others. I think this is a special thing we could have tapped into. And the hope is that more people will see it and want to be a part of it. I was talking to somebody last night actually about it and what we're doing, and they were like, "Yeah, look, I give money to charity all the time, but I give it and it's gone, and there's sort of nothing that's a part of it. If I could be part of a community and root for the games and see if we can sort of raise more and know that if we win, I got money to refire again."
Okay, it was not a lot of choices this week. Only 2 games.
Only 2. Of course,
but by the way, they both just moved. Like both of the games, it's a heavy, very strong 4 on Baltimore. A very strong 7 minus 20, even 7.5 now on San Fran. I expect both games to close around 4 and 7. Also, well, I shouldn't say that, 7 minus. So people are America's team is San Fran, of course. Even though they, last week what we seen with Purdy,
even though they don't look that good. Best team I've ever seen. You don't like that.
I remember when you said that a couple months ago, and then I think they lost. They were 5-0 when you said that. I think the next 3 weeks they lost.
Yeah. But a couple things. One, you mentioned the minus 120. We talked about it last week. People need to keep in mind this fact that 7 minus 120 is not the same as 7, right? 7
right.
And so keep in mind that's the edge that the books have, and so you got to keep
Sure.
focused on.
Sure.
The other thing you said, we've only got 2 games, but a man like you means that's 4 potential bets because of the total.
The total just went up 2 on Detroit, San Fran. And I'll be real blunt. I like the under. 52's down here. Circa has 52. But also, just to let you know, there is 7s, though. I could still bet 7 at South Point. So you could still lay 7 minus 110, or you could take plus 7.5 minus 112. Mm-hmm. So,
and what does it have to be for someone like you to try to play that middle? Like, if the 7.5 is moved enough with a price, will you try to hit 7.5, or you need 6.5, 7.5?
6.5, 7.5, exactly. And the same thing with a lower total. You can go like the Baltimore game. You can actually bet Baltimore like minus 160, which the line was, and taking 4, that's strong as morphine.
Got it. So you're playing the money line and then the points to try to.
God, that's so strong.
Yeah.
This, the 1 and 2 is live numbers now in the NFL analytics and everything else. 3 and 4, of course. 3 is the most prevalent number to come out in the NFL. 4 is also a live number, one of the key numbers. It's probably like 5th on the list, but 3 and 7 being first and second. So so that's the way this. It's real simple. This is public money, Russ. I don't respect the money this time of the year like I do throughout the year. Yeah. I don't respect the money. It comes in. Look what happened last week on the Green Bay game. It actually, most people at home don't know this, though. Green Bay game went to 10.5 everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like literally, San Fran, 10.5 over Green Bay. You couldn't get any 10s by game time. Yep. It's all public money coming in.
If my name was Joe and not Russ, you would take me out in the parking lot, kick me in the nuts, and take my money. It's true pros versus Joes when it comes to betting, and I see it. One other thing, because I know we like to talk more life than betting, but I brought up the sides and the totals, and I know historically you don't like betting sides. You find them very difficult to beat.
Very tough to beat NFL sides.
Well, what makes it about totals that you think you can approach it and beat it?
Totals are a little bit better, a little bit easier. NFL sides, it's the old any given Sunday. Anything can and will happen, as we know in this year more than any. Parity in the league is sick. By the way, both of these teams, that's right, both of these teams can easily lose this week. Detroit and Kansas City can be in the Super Bowl. That, when it comes to the conference championship games, that you don't really think that way normally. But here, this year especially, so much parity in the league, injuries, different things going on. San Fran last week, they should have lost the game versus Green Bay. Mm-hmm. This team, the quarterback did not look well. It's hard to believe 6 weeks ago he was the favorite here in Vegas to win the MVP. Yep. He was the favorite.
I told you, I made a very ill-advised large money line bet on the Niners and got saved.
I got to tell you something. Yeah. You got stone cold lucky, and it is ill-advised. I don't understand the logic behind that.
You're the pro. I'm the Joe. We talk about it. You're a good bettor. I'm betting.
No, I'm not trying to say I'm. Trust me. There's better bettors than me. Yeah. I'm not trying to say that, but
you're better than me.
I've been throwing out 3,000 sports books, including all the big ones.
So, but back to the total thing for a second. What makes it that you think totals are beatable? Because any given Sunday,
compared to sides,
the totals can move too, right?
So the totals are more beatable because they kind of throw a number up there quicker than they throw a side up there based on the teams playing, based on performance, what's happening then. Definitely, there is a little more. There's a little more research behind the totals that makes it a little bit more beatable. Mm-hmm. By the way, not easy to beat. I mean, we have beat the totals this year, especially first half totals. And by the way, the reason why I beat them because I have all these different sports books to play at, where I don't have to go over 21.5 first half. I can go over 21 minus 20, and that's kind of a key number. 20 is the best number, though. So when it's around 20, a little bit lower totals, you want to be able to beat them. So you want to have a lot of books in your arsenal to beat them. But I guess we have a guest today, so we can introduce him, right?
We do. Someone, who's been...
you might not even know this. The guy we have on is one of the first guys that I went on a national show with on SportsCenter. And I don't want to say my career is taking off without me even trying, though. With your help and doing, hosting nationwide shows now. And I'm on 5 podcasts, 6-7 radio shows a week during football, and I never told you that. Probably started out that day with him. He doesn't even realize.
So the question is, do you owe all of your media success to him, or since he's been gambling longer than you and I have been alive,
right?
Does he owe all of his recent gambling success to you?
Well,
we can bring him on.
I got to tell you something. Now that you're saying that, why is he much older than us?
Well, I think he's been gambling since he's 2.
Is
that accurate? All
right, bring him in. Bring him in. You bring him in.
I don't know how old you guys are, but I think I'm older. I do remember working with you. We were doing a March Madness special.
Yes.
And we were across the street on the Flamingo side.
That's right. We were in Paris. They had a beer garden or something.
Yes.
Right across from the Bellagio. Yeah, Ken. Thanks for coming on with us. And I don't know this now. Tell me. So tell our guests at home if you're allowed to talk about it. How do you guys know each other?
You want to tell us?
We shot a commercial together 20 years ago, long time ago.
I think 15 years ago, and we started talking on set. And you normally talk to the talent, but Kenny's a very personable, warm person, and we started talking. He's like, "Oh, you like to gamble? I like to gamble. You like horses? I like horses." He told me how he used to hitchhike to the track growing up, and I told him I used to cut school and either go to OTB or literally cut and go to Belmont and Aqueduct for the entire day. And it was a Tuesday. I'll never forget. We were shooting Midtown in New York. And in New York City, OTB used to run some bars, and they were absolute shitholes. Just like an OTB, the same crowd, but they'd have restaurants in it. There was the Yankee Clipper in South Street Seaport. There was a steakhouse one in Midtown. You do not want to be there. But there was
this one was not bad at all.
There was one bar that had an OTB. It wasn't an OTB running the bar. Right. It was an Irish bar called The Playwright. And so I said to Kenny, he's like, "Oh, you like horses? Let's go." I said, "It's Tuesday." I was like, "The only things running are Indiana Grand and Presque Isle." I was like, "I don't care."
Oh, wow.
And he was on crutches, and you had to go up a skinny staircase of an Irish bar to get up to the second floor where they had the OTB, and he's hopping, and that's it. I knew I had found.
Now, did you guys realize how bad OTB odds are?
No.
Or you didn't care?
This wasn't the I think the 5%. I think the 5% thing was gone because these are one of those you had to like.
Oh, okay.
I think the restaurants had a different deal, but yeah.
I got it.
OTB, the only bookie that could lose money and go out of business with a guaranteed 5%. The thieves there were stealing left and right.
My God.
And it used to be obviously before my time. I have a giant 5x6 poster in my house with Frank Sinatra doing the ad campaign for OTB, and Rodney Dangerfield did it, and they had Broadway stars.
You're kidding me.
So I guess in the 70s, it was less of a complete homeless, shitty, degenerate disaster than when I grew up.
Oh, God.
But horses...
By the way, you won't believe this. I went to OTB on Staten Island a couple times.
You think I won't believe that?
Oh, well, I mean, because I was, I'm not really a horse guy. I always think it's... But, I've only been a professional gambler, 30 years. But before that... When I was in my early 20s and teens, I was a little degen going to OTB behind, literally, it was behind a Toys R Us by Staten Island Mall.
So when we started going to OTB, because it's actually a good segue, I want Kenny to tell a story. At least when we were going, it was audio only. They didn't have the video. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
You could just hear the calls in some of those.
You're kidding me. It's like Abbott and Costello. They're off. You lose. Wow.
When I first got to UNLV, this is the spring of '79, the Sonics would win the title that year. There's a guy named Ray Krause, one of our running backs, who's from Oakland area, and he loved horse racing. He went to Golden Gate all the time. I went to Long Acres up in Seattle. And, we were friends anyway, but we both had this affinity for going. So in the old days, this is late 70s, early 80s, all throughout Vegas, they didn't have the big fancy sports books that you see now at all the casinos, right? There were these little places that you principally went to for your horses, and they only showed one or two video feeds, like maybe Belmont and Santa Anita, but most of the rest of the races was a recreated call. You'd be sitting there and you'd stare at the board. They'd slide over, Hawthorne is next. And all of a sudden you'd hear a guy, and they're off. Craft Monster broke alert. They do the whole race. And I knew that I could do that because I'd been doing it all my life on bicycles and cars, just freestyling horse race calls for having gone since I was 7 or 8 years old. And I begged my way into that job that spring. I did it for like 2 months where I was across town. You'd call a guy from Chicago or he'd call you. He'd say 1, 5, 7, 8, 1 by a half, 7 by 2. And you'd scribble down, his estimation of what happened. Then you'd hit the button and call the race and fake it like you were there. They knew it was fake. It wasn't like you were fooling anybody about what it was, but it was a funny scene. But it went on. You ever see the movie The Sting, right?
Of course.
It's, there you go.
Were you betting your paycheck consistently?
Say again?
Were you betting your paycheck while you were working or no?
No, I was pretty diligent and serious about my calls. I cared.
But obviously you're an icon in the sports world. Most people know you from SportsCenter. I think a lot of people don't know that you played quarterback at UNLV, so you're a tremendous D1 athlete. One thing I'd love to ask is like how you picked UNLV. Was it your passion for betting? Was it how you were recruited? But how did you land at UNLV of all schools?
Well, out of high school, I was always like honorable mention in high school. Our team missed the playoffs by 1 game, and I was always like the third best. I wasn't like a big star. I think I was 6'2" and about 158 pounds, So I walked on at Washington originally and saw that it was either going to take a lot of patience or I was going to have to get lucky because they had the kid ahead of me on scholarship who wasn't really a great quarterback. They were trying to transition him from another position. Warren Moon, I wasn't going to beat out that year, right? So
no, probably not.
So I walked on and then I walked off. I made the right decision. I went to a junior college for 2 years to get bigger. I grew, kind of grew into my hands and feet. And UNLV was one of the schools that recruited me as I was, then going to go on for my last 2 years. But they ended up picking this other kid. I found out there were 2 of us and they chose the other guy for the scholarship. And Sam King's his name. And I had some other places I could have gone, but there was just something about Coach Knapp. Tony Knapp was the coach. There was something about the enchantment of Vegas. I liked their offense. I just felt good I said, I'm just going to go anyway. I'm going to walk on as opposed to going to a sure thing elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Ended up getting a scholarship right away, but I was second string most of the time. While I'm on this program, the key event is my junior year, where I ended up ruining my ankle in a game at Oregon, which is how you're going to help benefit my foundation, which now benefits veterans. I went like 40 years of bone spur surgeries and pin in my toe and degradation of my ankle, where when I was about 50, 52, somewhere in there, I went to 3 doctors in 1 week. One was to fuse it, one was to replace it, and one was to cut it off. Like I was not in a great way, like in pain every day. And really, I was desperate at that point.
By the way, it didn't.
Guys were like, dude, you're too young. Go find a therapist. Go get a brace. Like, you can't make that type of decision at your age, right? So I found this chiropractor in Kirkland, Washington, named Nino Privic. And then I found a guy who makes a device down in California. And it changed me for the better for quite a while. But some years later, I ran into a different guy making sort of the next generation of those devices. I always said, like, I was in a station wagon, and now I got a Ferrari. So fall of 2017, I got this new device. It's called an ExoSim. I called Gretchen, my wife, like crying, like I couldn't believe what had just happened. Like I'm running on a treadmill when yesterday I could barely walk down the street without pain. And we both decided, let's do something good about this and raise money and get these devices on the legs of veterans who need them, like I did for my situation. So we're doing it for about 6 years now.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, we love that. How many veterans have you helped so far?
I think I'd have to double check on my email. I think we're in the close to 50 or low 50s. So, we're doing 6 or 8 a year, depending. 1 year only did 3 or 4, but 1 year we did 10. It's great. Really just as the money comes in. We've done some kind of small events. We did a really cool event last spring up in Seattle where I got Mike Penix, the Heisman nominee quarterback, to throw $1,000 fade routes to people who wanted to support it and get the thrill of the football, the picture, the video, shaking his hand. And in 20 minutes, we raised enough money to get 2 veterans pain-free.
Fantastic.
Wow.
So
how cool.
We're just trying to kind of go talk by talk. People are going to hear this show, hear about the website and go, what the hell, I'll do $100 for that. Or somebody else with more means. We've been really lucky. In fact, Russ, you led me to a friend of yours in Texas just recently. He had some more charitable funds he wanted to give by the end of 23. And sure enough, he sent the check and I could call the guy in Gig Harbor, Washington. Hey, money just came in. Next guy's up, So we really just go case by case by case. It's not like we're sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're just nickel and dime, but it's kind of cool that way in a sense. It's like, we have a list of who's next in line, but based on need and based on waiting time. And then we hustle it as well as we can, run into people like you that want to do a cool thing here with this betting challenge.
I think, Krack,
case by case.
I hereby deem this effort worth it.
No, this is definitely, no matter what, though, I'm making a donation. Just hearing this, because I'm all about veterans. I'm all about helping veterans and standing for our flag, and I am all about it. So, and let me ask you though, I'm going to go back a little bit though, because now we know about a little bit later. But as a kid, where did you grow up, and how did you get? You said 7 or 8. How did you get involved in horse racing or any kind of gambling? I know me. I was going to Monmouth Park when I was 8 years old with my dad. So, he was taking me. I grew up in an Italian family. My mother's side, they were playing stuff and football parlay cards and stuff. We had no choice where I was at. It was a rite of passage.
Marjan for cash, too, I bet.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's a rite of passage. Ken, how did you get involved in this? Your dad or uncle? What?
Both dad and uncle, they would play bridge, all hours of the night, arguing about who overbid and underbid and all those things. And,
really?
They were playing a half a penny a point. It wasn't
sure.
a big scam.
Sure.
My dad would have little poker parties sometimes with his friends.
Oh, he would? Okay. So you were introduced to it at a young age.
We would play very small. We'd penny ante, and the biggest bet you can make is a quarter.
Sure. Not cutthroat. Yeah.
Went to the racetrack. Ours was called Long Acres. Now Long Acres no longer exists. The new track up there is called Emerald Downs, but Long Acres was near the airport, if you know Seattle, down in, south of Seattle. And Gary Stevens, Hall of Famer, he kind of made his name there. He started out in Boise at Le Bois.
Wow.
Moved over to Long Acres, became a big shot there, and moved down to California nationally after that. The Bays family, very famous racing family, Gary Bays, Russell Bays.
Sure.
And descendants who are still in racing. It was a great old track. It was built in the 30s, same time as Santa Anita, and it had the view of Mount Rainier, the big mountain south of Seattle, the 14,000-foot volcano, and the poplar trees. And it was just like, it wasn't just the gambling, like I want to bet, my allowance. It was going out with my uncle or my dad and spending the day and going down and seeing the jockeys in the paddock. And
oh, that's cool.
The things we love about
the
process, the parade to post and studying and figuring out who's going to win. And it became something that, I kind of stayed with all the rest of my life. Ended up covering horse racing for ESPN for about 10 years.
He wasn't like us then.
No.
We grew up degens, like Chicago, New Yorkers, Philadelphia. We grew up total degens with our family. Like he went for like he said, the experience of it, jockeys of it. It just sounds
well. But then he told me he hitchhiked to the track.
Oh,
so at some point the switch flipped.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying we didn't enjoy it. In fact, I was just telling this story the other day. My senior year, going back to play football at UNLV, this is after I'd ruined my ankle. The junior year, they didn't think I was going to play, but I just like wouldn't say no, right? So I'm working out the whole summer. I'm going to kind of surprise them and like, hey, I'm playing still. They were going to honor my scholarship, but didn't think I was going to be on the team. And I was up at this park south of Seattle, and I ran into these friends of mine playing pickup basketball. And one of them's like, hey, let's go out to the track. Because in those days, you got in for free the last 2 races, right? And we zipped down. It's 20 minutes away. And also, by the way, in those days, there was only one exacta, and it was on the 10th race, and it was $5, kind of prohibitive, right? They didn't have it all day long. There were no pick threes. It was just the daily double, race 1 and 2, the exacta, race 10. That was it.
Wow.
And we're all going to put in, I think, $20 or $30 and pick numbers, and then we'd have a consensus, and that would be our box or whatever we would do, right? And at the last minute, one of the guys, Chuck McGorry, decides he doesn't want to waste the $30. He's out. So now we're down to $90, and they're like, horses are approaching the starting. And now I'm like, oh shit, what am I didn't even know what the bet was. I go running down with the money. I ended up naming 4 numbers on a box and some other combos. 20 to 1 horse wins, 30 to 1 horse is second. The other guys think we've lost, but I know, wait, we have the 7 and the 5 or whatever it was. I had covered up the correct bet, the consensus, and picked the other guy's numbers who had dropped out. His numbers gave us this $4,000. And
wow.
$4,000 is still a lot of money.
Of course.
But when you're 20, 21 years old, it's a fortune, right? So we split the $4,000. We gave him $100 and filled his car with gas. That was the consolation for.
He drove. The guy who dropped out had to drive you guys home. Amazing.
He was driving, but we felt like he deserved something. Without him, we're not winning. He did decide to drop out, and had he stayed in, we would have lost. Yeah. So really, we owed it to him in every possible way.
But see, Kenny talked about going to the experience of the track. For me, because I'm not a professional, like I told you, I do it for all that. The stories. Like, there's nothing better than gambling stories, and you could look back with friends and with enemies and all that stuff. Like that's part of the reason I do it. I mean, I just it's life. Sorry, Kenny, $4,000 is a lot of money back then. We don't have that much money, but we're gonna bet to try to raise some funds for Run Freely. So the first thing that goes into that is we got to come up with the pick, and so.
Are you letting him do it?
Well, I think we'll all talk about the games. Okay. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'd love to hear Krack's opinion.
I mean, I think he hit it on the head where he said, hey, both favorites could lose. Like, who's going to be surprised if Kansas City and Detroit pull it off? Detroit's got this amazing run. They got all the momentum. They got the good karma. San Francisco's ridiculous with all the weapons they have. They got one guy hurt. We don't know about that yet.
Sorry. Is Debo playing?
Listen. Why would this game move to? I was on air this morning down at Wiesn at 7:00 this morning, and I seen it go from 7 to 7.5 at a couple spots. It's still 7.5 at a couple spots. Yeah. This says to me that Debo's playing. They'll get him on there with something. They'll tape him up, duct tape. I mean, staples. He will be out there, in my opinion. Why would this game go to 7.5 at a couple spots today? But and it's going to be nice weather.
I was going to say, in defense, both of Purdy, actually, of all of them. Look at Jared Goff, for instance, how they gave up on him. He was going to be the next Joe Montana. Then suddenly they said he's terrible. We got to get rid of him, and they trade him for Stafford, which works out. They win the Super Bowl, and they also get like 500 draft picks. And then it turns out he was Joe Montana the whole time, or potentially, right? Like he's still. No, I'm saying his style, his smoothness.
He's very handsome.
Then you get the last pick of the draft, right, Mr. Irrelevant. Why he gets hammered on daily on all these podcasts and TV shows. The guy's been in the league barely 2 years. There's all sorts of players who don't even play it. Aaron Rodgers, as an example, right? He didn't start playing till Favre had finally left, and he was much old. So I just think and Lamar, that whole thing's ridiculous. Why people didn't think he was a quarterback is like he's kind of like Randall Cunningham, but faster, I would say. Right, same kind of action, just wide open. He can run, he can throw, and then of course Mahomes is Mahomes, right? So I was making fun of the whole elite quarterback argument about 15 years ago. Yet they're still doing it 7 days a week on every show. denigrating one guy because of one bad game or praising another guy too much because of one good game. How about we just kind of get that they're all pretty damn good? There's only so many Bradys. There's only so many Mahomeses.
Well, but you just nailed it. I was about to ask you. There's only so many Mahomes. He's not in these other guys' category. I don't care if Lamar is MVP this year. Like, just your view on Mahomes, like.
That's why, as good as Lamar is and as good as that defense is, and the fact they're at home, it's pretty scary to ever bet against until they knock him out. You know, like there's just something about him and that offense and how smart they are.
Two Kansas City Chief betting winners right here, Krack.
Oh yeah,
last week. Yeah.
I usually don't pick sides. Kansas City, I gave out on every single show I did the last 2 weeks.
How do you not pick? When you say don't pick sides, you don't pick.
I don't do a lot of sides. I more do totals, proposition bets.
Score. What the hell are you doing?
More of like analytics and model driven selections, like over under yards, like Lamar Jackson. I like his over yards this week, which sounds pretty square. I usually like unders, but I do like his over running yards. So I'll bet that more than I will bet a side on a game. But however, I have done sides recently, and by the way, for this year, I probably picked 10 sides. I'm probably like 7-3. So I have had a winning season, but that's a small sample, though. So
I really wanted Buffalo to make that field goal because it would have given Mahomes the ball needing. I think I lost by 43 yards.
Oh no!
His over was 254.
You would have had it. You would have won it.
Let me ask the pro here for something, because I was telling someone I was watching it. If Buffalo hits that field goal, it's a minute 50. Chiefs have 2 timeouts, and then there's still overtime. The Chiefs are minus 150.
Yeah, they're favorite.
But minus 150 or higher?
Little 50 is a little too high. Like maybe 135, something like that.
Because I have a good friend.
43 more yards. He was going to get it too, because they were going to go down.
He's a favorite
and win, or they were going to go to overtime and
right. If they only got 35 yards, they were going to overtime. Correct.
Yeah. Here's one thing I'm still hung up on, and I love the coach and I loved how that team played. So I'm not. This isn't some huge criticism of the whole thing. It was more an oddity in the Detroit-Tampa game. They left a timeout in their pocket and walked off the field.
Terrible.
Like, wait a minute. There's still 30 seconds. Why didn't they call timeout? And people were having this discussion, a pretty friendly discussion as far as Twitter goes. Usually it's just everybody yelling at each other. But a bunch of us had a legitimate, I was like, am I crazy or do they still have a timeout? And somebody was trying to maintain almost like unwritten rules of baseball, as though, well, they didn't call timeout on second down or third down. Therefore, they'd sort of already conceded. So if there's still time, they don't take. It's like, what are you talking about? If Detroit was dumb enough not to burn the play clock, as they should have, right? They were taking a knee at 12 or whatever. They should take it down to 2, right? 2 or 1. So there's
WWBD.
What happened before. What happened eventually was it was 4th down.
Yeah.
There were 35 seconds, and you had a timeout that you didn't use.
You have to ask yourself, WWBD, what would Belichick do? Because if he hadn't burned the timeouts, he's definitely calling it. He's calling it if they're that stupid to do what he did. He'd say he tricked them into doing it.
Right. Yeah. Sort of like the Seahawks at the 1-yard line, where a lot of people thought he was some magician not calling timeout, let them have to decide, all that kind of thing. Anyway.
All right. So this week's games, we've got what's the latest lines? We've got Niners minus 7.5 with, we think.
No, or 7. There is minus 7s on the screen.
With, we think, a Debo, and the Ravens are 4.
4. Yeah. Solid 4.
I think the bet, it's your money. You're benefiting our foundation, which we highly appreciate. Even if we don't win, just the notice, right? Getting more people to know about it. And it is runfreely.org. I don't think I ever said that.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Runfreely.org. Perfect.
Yeah, and there's a donate button right there. And there's also the story of how we got here, and there's the success stories and all those good things. If I were doing a singleton bet, it would be parlay. Let's go after both games and take the points in both games.
So I could say a couple of things. One, I love your gambling spirit, because that's trying to win even more money. We did a teaser last week, so we're okay doing multiple picks. But if you want to do a parlay, we can do it. I just did have one thought in my mind, because you were saying you liked him. What's the Lamar rushing prop?
Well, does he like that? And which game do you like more? So you can.
Well, I bring it up because of run freely. Do we want Lamar running freely on the field?
He's about 65.5 rushing yards
to try to win money. Anyway, that's just thought. But you like.
Yeah. 65.5 rushing yards. What did he get, 100 last week?
I mean, he's having a great year. I love his style of play. And it bugs me that people, like I talked about earlier, try to dissect every last thing. And like, dude, he wins games. He's only 26 or 7. He's like, I just don't get the full sale criticism really of any of them. Like when people try to put down players for this or that, it's like, dude, the 11th guy on an NBA bench, if he walked into your local gym, would, right? Like, I don't think people get the talent level just to even be in the conversation, much less to be.
By the way, even the Ravens didn't really want to re-sign him. Let's be clear; they were hoping somebody was going to give him a pick and get him out of there, and they would not be forced to give him the money. Like that's pretty evident.
Was stupid too.
Yep.
I don't know what there is to not like about, there's all sorts of reasons teams don't win playoff games. It's not entirely the quarterback's fault, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if he has a big game and they win at home. Like that wouldn't surprise me in the least. It's just the Mahomes factor is such that it's like, man, or just stay away from that game and make it all about the other game. But I think Detroit's going to play him tough, and I think it'll be under that number.
All right, so I'm hearing if I had a conviction pick from you without being total degen parlay, because Krack will kill us for running a parlay, is you like the Lions. Does that sound correct?
And well, I like him maybe even winning, but I definitely like him with the points.
Yeah,
we're going to get 7.5 with them. So that's the key here too.
Maybe we play safe. Let's get if we win this bet, you pull back your money and you give the profits to us. Correct? That's how it works.
Correct. Because I gotta have money. I gotta have money for the next week. The next charity. Yep.
What's the most gimmicky thing? Not gimmicky, but what's a number game out there that matters to us?
What do you mean? A prop? You mean
like Goff's yardage or Purdy's yardage or anything like that?
I mean, some of the stuff that me and my team
parlay.
Yeah,
will McCaffrey score a touchdown, anytime touchdown, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they're kind of bad bets though. That's funny though, but you say that.
Yeah, see, you're one of we're each other.
In other words, if I get a two-way market on McCaffrey making a touchdown, I'm betting the no. Because all the public's betting yes, and they're so they're forced to overmove. So, like you can see that these are the bets, the 3 bets that I made so far this week on San Fran McCaffrey. I bet under 37.5 receiving yards. That is, Laporta under 5.5 receptions. I know these are unders. My bets aren't fun; they're ugly. I'm rooting against everything. Hardman under 1.5.
The craps table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the guy that's laying the no 10. Yes, you're right.
You know, it's funny. He does all these videos about a slot machine strategy, and there's certain machines to play, and he calls people sour rooters.
Right, they sour root.
I
got 2.7 million views on my last one.
You are the sour rooter of the NFL.
Yeah, I am.
You're betting the under, rooting against all of us.
But like, look,
you were like a black shirt and unbuttoned with gold chains.
No. I had some Italian uncles that did that though, and they intimidated people at the table. But you're right, because we grew up on craps too. We grew up, stone cold degenerates. We threw craps against the post office, pitched quarters against the post office wall. When we were
my favorite scene in Easy Money.
In the bathroom.
Yeah, my favorite scene in Easy Money is when they're rolling dice and they get even, and Joe Pesci tells Rodney, "We're even. Let's
we can go. We can get out of here.
All right, it's double or nothing.
Double or nothing.
right, and they're in a basement.
Monty.
Or back. Yeah, Monty, bad.
Monty.
Yeah. So all right,
so the safest thing
would be the Lions with the points, but
Lions points. Forget about the gimmicks.
Good.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So you feel good about it?
Yeah.
Well, all right. You said you wanted us to be responsible.
I actually look at this bet I made. First quarter, Lions plus 3.5. That's a weird, late $1.61, but that's gone now. So, I mean, that's a gimmicky thing. We're going to go with the with Detroit plus 7.5. That's the bet we're going to be making.
And it's for runfreely.org.
Runfreely.org.
A fantastic organization that Kenny has started and continues to support. And I'll just say one thing before we get out of here, because we do like talking about the city and sports and all that stuff. I would love to, because obviously Vegas, Super Bowl's coming here. Everybody loves coming to Vegas anyway. A lot of people are going to be coming to Vegas in the 70s when you were here compared to now. Like, I know Krack likes watching shows about it.
I love. I'm a historian from Vegas. Ken, what was the first year you were here? 70s. What was your first year?
Spring of 79.
Wow, there you go. Summer of.
So what was it like?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Dude, I had a job. This was legal. This is not having to report anything. So you could work, if you were a football player on scholarship, as long as it was out of school year, right? Like during the summer or even spring break, right? And so I had a job at the Holiday Casino, which no longer exists. There was a Holiday Inn almost directly across from Caesars, right there, right by the Flamingo Company.
Yes.
And our casino was called the Holiday Casino.
Was that
It had
on
the wagon
Casino
wheels and
Center?
like-
On Convention Center? That
No, it was
Holiday?
right on the strip, right on.
Oh,
right
like
on the
where
strip.
Bellagio was now. or
Oh,
something
wow.
like that.
No. It was across the street on the Flamingo side,
Got it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
like just north, I would say. What's over there now?
The link. The link.
No, where's the Magic Guy? The Magic Guy has that show right across from Caesars.
We got a lot of Magic guys here.
Matt Franco. No.
Yep.
Oh.
What's his place called?
Harris.
Nope.
I don't know. We'll have to go
right.
look it up.
You can throw a rock from Caesars across the
I think
street.
the link.
It might be.
the link.
It
It's
might
the
be.
link.
I think it's where the link was, is my memory. Anyway, I could ride my bicycle on the Las Vegas Strip to work and no big deal.
Wow.
Just like, right? Like, I'm not saying there weren't crowded nights or whatever, but in general, it's like, whatever, just going to Flamingo and taking a right and parking in the parking lot and everything. I miss it in the sense that I loved how it was simple and everything. It was north and south.
We have a picture.
We have a picture of it. Yeah.
It was just north and south.
It became
And now you got
Harris.
all
It
these-
became Harris in 1992, it said.
There you go.
You ever ride your bike into some guys that you knew you shouldn't ride your bike into? Those types of guys, or they were starting to be out of town already.
Nah, we didn't have that issue. I just, when you're young and it's brand new and you're excited to be like, we went out the first 2 months, probably every single night to Las Vegas. Like, we have to go here. We have to go. Then you kind of get used to it. And you also realize I don't have that much money. I got to get by the rest of the month with $112. I can't really afford to go to Caesars and play craps. Right. So, you kind of wised up a little bit. And we went to Highlight. That was one of my favorite things.
Oh, they had Highlight. I didn't know they had Highlight.
They had Highlight where Bally's, in back of Bally's, I think, right?
Well, it was at the time. It was the MGM. The
MGM.
old
That's right. It was
that had the fire.
MGM, but where the fire was, yes.
And it's changed names a few times. But I could walk from my apartment to go to Highlight, and 5 of us would meet up.
Where did you live? Did you live in like the Meridian or something? Did you live on the corner?
I lived in probably 7 apartment complexes over 3 years.
Okay.
Because you'd have a 6-week break from school or whatever it was. I'd go back to Seattle. All my possessions in one suitcase.
Oh, wow. And come back and get a new place.
NIL came too late for your bankroll because you would have been a terror on the strip with NIL money.
I don't know that I would have gotten so much because I was just second, but I would have like pimped out Randall. I would have made commercials for him. We had some good running backs, Michael Morton. We had Todd Liebenstein. We had some solid players.
Sorry, I need to make a note here. Does Todd Liebenstein go into our leaflet for Jewish Sports Hall of Fame? It sounds like he's a member of the tribe.
Look it up. He was drafted my senior year, I believe, the Redskins, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, I'm going to look it up.
Formerly the Redskins.
All right, so Kenny, thank you again for joining. We're glad we could shine a light on this. Are you going to be out here for Super Bowl?
I will be, and we'll go play the plastic horse race machine at Bellagio.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow, cool.
All right.
Well, good. Thanks for coming on with us, buddy, and we'll hopefully see you for Super Bowl.
And we'll try to do some good. Your pick better win.
I feel good about it. I feel it's the right play. The other game, it's just too scary. It's just too don't try to.
As I said, we've made 3 picks on this show. The 2 that I haven't made have gone against the team that I think is the best team I've ever seen. So
oh, wow.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh, boy.
But I'm rooting for you, and it's a lot of points. I'll find 7 somewhere if I'm going to bet the Niners. The 7.5.
The 7 down at Sap Point.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You're the best, Kenny.
Thanks, Ken. See you.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Cool. That was good. That was good. All right. So yeah, we'll have plus 7.5, which I'll get for us here. And let me tell you something. There's a couple 7.5s around town. We'll be able to get one of them. And I just didn't want to do a parlay.
I know you did. That's why I told him.
It's just so much tougher.
I was going to tell him he should tease it if he liked both.
I'd rather do a teaser than a parlay.
But
it's a better chance of us giving money away actually on a teaser. But let's stick with.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do without him. So I'm going to bet $9,000 that I always bet. I'm going to bet it on the Lions plus 7.5. You can bet for as much as you want, but I'm going to throw an extra $200 on Lamar trying to run freely. I'm going to try to get him the prop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
we'll see if we can find the best number there, and then I'll be rooting for Lamar to run all over the field. Even though I like the Chiefs, but that means they're getting after him, and he's running crazy.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Well, good. Sounds good. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Kenny Mayne and Gamblers and Givers signing off.
Yep.